Hey everyone and welcome back. At the time of making this video it's the year 2024 and this would mark the 25-year anniversary of the Sony Aibo. Yes, it's 25 years since the Sony Aibo was first introduced to consumers. In today's video we'll be taking a look at the beginnings of Aibo, and I can tell you now it's a lot further back than 1999. We shall also be taking a brief look at the history of Aibo and some of the models that have been available over the years. These 6 here I own myself. Unfortunately I don't have an ERS-1000, ERS-1000 or the current model which is the ERS-1000. So for that and more, stay tuned and I'll see you right after this. So the first time we all heard about Aibo was 1999, but its origins go right back all the way to 1990. 1990 was when Sony established its computer science division, and its first big achievement was creating the ERS operating system, which would later become the software used as a base for the early Aibo models. The foundations of the Aibo's operating system used pattern recognition, tracking data from live video feeds, using artificial intelligence to interpret meaning. There was to be quite a few prototypes before we got to see the Aibo that we all know today, or at least the first one that came out back in 1999. The first Aibo has 6 legs, and it was named Mutant, which was the code name of the project. And those 2 batteries on the side there look like the Sony MPF550 lithium-ion batteries that Sony would later use in its Mavicas and camcorders. As time went on, the Aibo went through quite a few transformations, and in these images here you can see it started to look more like a dog, although in fact it was actually supposed to look like a monkey in the beginning. One version was even on wheels. Interestingly, the word Aibo also happens to be the Japanese word for friend or companion. While a lot of people over the years have actually considered Aibo to be a toy, it was actually never intended for that. It was actually intended to be a companion for older people, and not children. So now we know a little bit about Aibo's origins, let's talk about the release date in 1999. Aibo was just initially a research project, it was never meant to actually go on sale. It was never actually meant to be mass produced. But as time went on, Sony wanted to release something amazing. And then in 1999 they did just that.
Lunchtime.
The first model to be released would be called the Sony ERS-1000. And this was made in limited quantities. Initially just 5,000 units were put on sale in Japan and America. Because at the end of the day this was still a science project, and Sony wanted to get feedback from those early adopters. Aibo has only ever been available to order online, and this was quite a new thing back then, something we take for granted today, and within 20 minutes of going online it was to sell out. And then when it restocked, it sold out in 17 seconds. This was incredibly impressive back then, because as I mentioned before, online selling was relatively new. At the cost of a whopping $2,500, that works out at just over $4,500 in today in 2024, or £3,500 in English money. And I certainly couldn't afford that back then. After the initial release in May of 1999 in the Japanese market and American market, the ERS-1000 was quickly replaced by the ERS-111 for the European market, which was also released in the same year but in November. This time 10,000 models were put on sale for a period of 1 week. But once again they sold out, and Sony actually recorded 135,000 orders for this item, which is absolutely amazing. There's not actually a lot of differences between the ERS-1000 and the 111. The main differences I've read about are they have longer tails and rounded ears, whilst the ERS-111 have angled ears and shorter tails. By the end of the run of this second model, apparently 40,000 units have been sold, and I'm assuming they mean that as a total in both colours that were available back then. The ERS-110 and 111 did not have voice recognition. Instead, for communication with the owner of the Aibo, you would use a remote control. The Aibo would respond to sounds and tones from the remote control for giving it commands. The only accessory I've ever seen for the Aibo ERS-1000 is the Aibo Performance Kit, and the model number for that kit is ERF-511. This comprised of a CD-ROM with a program on, a PCMCIA card adapter for the SONY AIBO memory stick, and the AIBO memory stick itself with AIBOware version 1.1, which is the operating system. With this you can save the customised personality files you create yourself with the Aibo Performer onto this memory stick. And also you can create and edit motions for your robot, exchange motions with Aibo owners, link audio files to motions, preview your motions to get an idea what your motions will look like before you save them onto the memory stick, and also perform diagnostic checks and access the website, which of course will be long gone now. Going forward in a future video, we'll have a look at it in detail and see exactly what it does, because I think that will make an interesting video by itself. I don't want this video to go on too long. Incidentally, if anybody knows of any other accessories or software that was available for this from Sony themselves, please let me know in the comments. I know there was a lot of homemade or homebrew software out there, things that I haven't actually had a look at yet myself. I think looking at what other people have done with Aibo over the years, especially this model here, would make a very interesting video. So if anybody has done anything themselves, please let us know in the comments, and maybe I'll make a video about this one day. So after the massive success of this first generation Aibo back in 1999, this encouraged Sony to launch a second generation the very next year in October. This had improved mobility, touch sensors and facial LEDs, and the ERS-1000 model boasted enhanced emotional expression in its interaction with its living environment. Features that were requested by previous owners, including a name recording function and voice recognition, which I think is the most interesting. This obviously brought Aibo even closer to its owners. Not having voice recognition on the first model was one of the things that really held this back, in my opinion. In fact, if I think about it, when I first got my ERS-1000, I remember asking it to do things, not realising at the time that it wouldn't understand this, because the first generation needed that remote control to generate those sounds to give it commands. So as well as the ERS-1000, there was also the 220, which is one of my favourite models. I actually had two of these many years ago, but sadly I parted with them and always regretted it. But earlier this year I'm pleased to say I managed to get another one. And I didn't realise actually at the time there's actually two versions of the ERS-220, and the same with the ERS-210. The first generation that came out had a standard core, which ran at 192 MHz. Then they released a super core version, which ran at twice the speed, 384 MHz. I've personally not noticed any difference in performance, but I've read that other people have noticed a difference in decision making in regards to speed with their Aibos. If you have a super core model, it has a sticker on it usually saying so. There was also an improved clutch mechanism as well in the super core. The first models of 210 and 220s had problems with the clutch mechanism in the neck. The ERS-210 was the most popular out of the Aibos, selling over 65,000 units, and the ERS-220 only sold between 5,000 and 7,000 units, which I actually find hard to believe because it's such an unusual looking model. It has a lot more gadgetry on it, a lot more lights and buttons, and it's a lot more futuristic looking. Things started to get a bit more interesting for the ERS-210 and 220 because Sony produced some new software and hardware for them. This came in the form of a memory stick, and it would be a pink memory stick. It's only the pink memory sticks will work with the ERS-210 and 220, whereas the ERS-110 and 111 will work with a purple memory stick. The reason for this is because Aibo has its own file system. There is an app available called Sticks app, and this will allow you to format a regular memory stick so that Aibo can read the files from it, and then you can install your own software. To install the app, you need a Sony Palm PDA, a CLIA. Both the ERS-210 and 220 have a PCMCIA slot hidden at the back. To get to this, you need to remove the hind legs using the special tool that comes with your Aibo. And this is where you would plug in your wireless LAN card to connect your Aibo to your Wi-Fi router. And the software that would utilise that Wi-Fi card would be Aibo Messenger and Aibo Navigator 2. The Aibo Navigator 2 looks quite interesting actually. Once it's set up, you can actually see what Aibo is seeing through his camera. You can control his movements. And with the Aibo Messenger, you can actually get it to read out your emails and even websites. And you can also use it to announce your current time at a specific time during the day. Also available is Aibo Master Studio 1.1. This is a behaviour arranger and an action composer. There's also an Aibo Fun Pack. Looking at the box here, it's got Aibo Life, which must be another version, an Aibo Advisor, get to know your Aibo's character, Aibo Diary, a daily log, complete with pictures taken by Aibo, and Aibo Time, greet the morning with Aibo, celebrate special occasions with Aibo. And last but not least, Aibo Recognition. According to the box, with this you have two new functions, owner recognition and self-charging function, because you get a little charging station to fit under the charger, and this has some different colours on it, which is what the Aibo will recognise as it tries to dock. I haven't tried this myself yet, so again that will be something else to try in another video. I've certainly got a lot to be getting on with, haven't I? And again I will be making a future video about this, and probably the other software that's available for the Aibos as well. And next up we have the very unusual looking ERS-1000 series, and these have the Aibo's heart slogan. Quite a few models in the range. There's a 311 and a 312, and there's also a 31L. The 311 and the 312 came in different colours, I believe there was about 4 in total, and they also had a Bluetooth variant as well. You could also buy a Bluetooth handheld viewer. You could use this to connect your Aibo, and you can see Aibo's thoughts and feelings through text on the display, and also enable the user to play games with them. Unfortunately my example here is all in Japanese. I've not figured out yet how to get it into English. Even the manual's Japanese and I've not found an English version online. It may not actually be possible to change a language, because they seem to only be available in Japan. There is actually a USB connection on the bottom, so maybe you can upload things to it via a computer. If anybody knows about this, please let us know in the comments. And here we have the 31L. Apparently this is supposed to look like a pug dog, and it's one of the harder models to find. I think I read somewhere they made less of these. The serial number of my example here is in the early 200s, and it's in very good condition. So I'm quite proud actually to have this in my collection, along with my 311B. One of the differences I've noticed actually with the 31L is that it doesn't have Bluetooth connectivity. The button on the bottom is actually marked as reserved, so I don't think it's actually connected to anything. Unfortunately I don't have a working battery, so I've been unable to see these two working yet. I have lots of different software for them. There seem to be quite a few different packages available for these dogs. Apparently there's 8 different software packages available altogether: Aibo Life, Aibo Pal Friend, Aibo Pal SE, Kawaii Aibo, Long Long Panda, Chatty Life, Hello Aibo Chatty, and Deca Voice. Each software has a different behaviour and mannerisms. This is the selection that I have, but they're actually all in Japanese, so I'm not actually sure what they do. Obviously 4 of them will be from that list I mentioned before. The only one I have in English is Aibo Pal. I'll cross-reference the ones I already have by looking online. They did actually do a panda shell add-on to make your Aibo look like a panda. It was actually furry. This shell could fit on any of the 311 series, and it was accompanied with the panda software. Apparently this range was introduced as a budget model, and it was targeted towards women and children. It certainly shows, doesn't it, with their soft lines and their cuteness. I myself prefer the more robotic looking dogs. Apparently they weren't very well received in the West, but Japan loved them. I can certainly understand why. They do look very Japanese, don't they? They function very similar to the 2 series, but with less moving parts and pet sensors. These actually have a little joystick for a tail at the back, and this is how you interact with them. There's no LED visor with these dogs. Instead they have an LED horn on their head, and this will change colour with Aibo's mood or status. I don't like the docks that these have actually. They're very plasticky and there's no electronics inside. The dongle connects magnetically and can sometimes drop off. You can get a little electronic device that sits in the front when you remove the front panel, which will connect directly to the dog's charging port, I believe. And I think this pretty much does what the ERS-1000 dock does in regards to setting the time and showing the battery status. I actually didn't discover this range of Aibos until a few years ago. I don't think many have reached our shores here in England, but they seem quite plentiful in Japan, and you can get them for around £300 mark, but then of course you've got import duties on top of that. And then in 2003 we had a new model. This was actually to be the last in the series of Aibos, at least for now, and this was the ERS-1000. This was intended to be the culmination of the product's development to that point. Some of the improvements were a better camera and more RAM and a better processor. along with a built-in wireless LAN card on this model, so there was no need to plug anything in. It had many other new features as well, and it certainly looked very futuristic. And just like the 31 series, this series would also continue the trend of going away from that modular design. So you can't just swap out parts like the legs or the head or the tail, like you can with the ERS-1000 and 220 range. This model looked entirely different to its predecessors. It had a very smooth looking face, always reminded me of Snoopy. I don't actually have one of these yet, and I really would like one. They do actually still command quite a high price on the second hand market. This model actually underwent multiple revisions over time, over its 3-year run. Every release added an additional available colour to the product line, and came with an updated version of the Mind software. And then Sony announced this discontinuation of the Aibo line altogether in 2006, which was quite devastating really, because we all obviously at the time wondered what would be next, but sadly it was to come to an end, or so we thought. Out of the blue in 2018, Sony announced a new Aibo model, the ERS-1000. Unfortunately I don't own one of these yet either, and I must say I would really like one, because it seems like quite an amazing piece of technology. On its initial release in January 11th, 2018, it was only available in Japan and online again, but they did actually do a US release. Price new was just under $3,000, so probably looking around about $2,500 in English money. You can get them second hand even here in England. Some of them made it to our shores. They go for as little as £600, but usually around the £1,000 mark. And they've been available in many colours, almost rivalling the 210, because that was also available in quite a lot of colours. The ERS-1000 has many advanced features. They have expressive LED eyes instead of a visor, giving them a more puppy-like appearance. These ones don't actually use a memory card. They have internal memory and actually connect to the cloud. To get the full benefit of them, they require a constant online connection to access the full range of features, which seems a little bit off really, because no doubt in the future, like Sony's Play Memories, this will probably be discontinued. I was quite surprised to see that the Aibo ERS-1000 is actually still available to buy now in 2024. In fact, I actually missed its release date back in 2018, which is even more of a surprise really, considering how much I'm into this old tech. I say old because obviously Aibo is 25 years old, and obviously this newer model is a lot newer and certainly a lot more advanced. I've actually read somewhere that Sony brings out a model of the ERS-1000 every February in a new colour, and it can be a little bit of a lottery of whether you get one or not. Sounds like they make them in limited runs. But saying that though, when I looked on the website today, in 2024, they still seem to be available in quite a few colours. Cloud support for the ERS-1000 costs $300 a year, and this support is only available in Japan and America. So if you're thinking of buying one of these and you live somewhere else in the world, you're not going to get any updates or any support whatsoever. There is also an app available for this Aibo, simply called My Aibo, but when I tried to download it, it said it wasn't available for my region, which is rather disappointing. So I managed to get a copy of it downloaded just by typing in My Aibo APK, and I downloaded it that way for my Android device. But unfortunately, nearly all of the features aren't enabled, because obviously it's only available for America and Japan. Looking at some of the videos that other people have posted with their ERS-1000s, their autonomy looks extremely close to a real animal. They'll even look around for things to do and interact with each other if there's another ERS-1000 there. They'll seek out your attention and respond to your commands, just like the other dogs I suppose, and they'll charge themselves when needed, and they'll recognise their favourite people and much more. And I must say, from what I've seen, they make the other Aibos look really outdated as regards to the way the other ones move. The older Aibos seem to move more robotically and more awkwardly, whereas the ERS-1000 is very smooth and lifelike. But saying that though, I still like the older Aibos. There's something about them, isn't there? While these do need the cloud to get the best out of them, they will still work without it, but there are just certain little things that it won't do. For example, changing eye colour, memory backup, choosing gender, feeding, software updates, which obviously is very important, but you're not going to get these without the cloud. Photos by Aibo, so you won't be able to see any of the photos that the dog takes, which is a bit disappointing. But I'm sure somebody out there has probably managed to get a way around that. If anybody has found a workaround for doing updates and seeing the images that the Aibo takes without subscribing to the cloud, please let us know in the comments. So you may be here watching this because you may be thinking about buying an Aibo. Let me tell you now, it's quite a minefield, because like anything, they all have their potential problems. The earlier models, in my experience, the 111 is the cheapest to buy, certainly here in England, and it seems to have the least problems. In fact, the only major problem it really has are the ears disintegrating due to the rubber backing, the rubber synthetic backing that Sony used to give those segments their flexibility. I have actually done a repair video recently whilst working on this video. Obviously you've probably seen that in the footage that I've been showing. I managed to make some new ears for my ERS-1000s, my black and silver version, but these seem to be the most reliable ones. And then obviously looking at the 210s and the 220s, they have problems with the neck potentiometers, and that you can get jitters. What can cause these jitters is the potentiometer contacts becoming dirty, and in order to clean them you have to take them apart, which is quite a lengthy process. I actually did this on my ERS-220, and I must say I was an absolute nervous wreck doing it, and I was very lucky that I managed to actually sort the problem out. I will add a separate video about this actually, showing exactly what I did. I must say though, it's certainly not for the faint-hearted, and even a seasoned professional who does repairs on electronics will probably be a little nervous, because obviously these things are very small and intricate inside, and there are a lot of those ribbon cables, and things can easily break if you're too heavy-handed. So I certainly wouldn't recommend trying this yourself. If you can, get somebody who actually knows what they're doing with these Aibos and let them do it. Another common fault on the ERS-210 and 220 on the early models is something called DHS, which stands for droopy head syndrome. This will be where the head will suddenly drop forward. This is because parts of the gearing system and the servos wore down quickly and things slipped. I've also noticed on my ERS-210 in black that the front right leg twitches slightly on boot up. You can actually see it twitching here in this clip, but once it's booted up and walking it seems to go away. My ERS-31 model doesn't have a battery unfortunately, so I don't know if there's anything wrong with it. I have noticed that the legs, some of them seem to be louder than others when I move them. The ERS-7 has leg problems apparently, certainly the version 1, the M1, the M2 and the M3. Apparently there was less chance in the M3 of getting the leg problems, but it is still a possibility. And also the ERS-7 has problems with its microphones, they can go deaf. But apparently this is an easier fix. Even the early ERS-1000s have their problems. Early models can have problems with their hips breaking, but Sony addresses this issue on later models. And then of course there's the battery issues. If these lithium-ion batteries don't have a charge in them for a long period of time, they'll get to a point where they won't charge anymore. There are various ways of trying to trick them back into charging, and there are people out there that resell these batteries, making them brand new again. And sometimes you can even get a higher amperage so that Aibo will last a little bit longer. Again, I wouldn't recommend trying to replace the cells in a battery yourself, because batteries can explode if they're handled incorrectly. Unless of course you know what you're doing, because with the Aibo batteries, especially the ERS-210 and I think it's the 311 batteries, if you don't undo the cabling inside in a certain order, you can actually do further damage to the PCB. So these Aibos really are a going concern, just like any other vintage electronics, and you have to be prepared for that. It's actually quite gut-wrenching when they do go wrong, because you're left feeling quite hopeless and helpless, because they're so difficult to work on. Unfortunately Sony never provided any service manuals for these. Sometimes while the Aibos are running, they kind of give me a little bit of a heart attack, because this one here, my ERS-111, fell over the other day, not once but twice. It still amazes me actually that they have the technology in them to correct themselves and stand back up again. And this poor little fella here got quite annoyed with himself. Thankfully, because of their modular design, it's just a case of swapping parts out, if you don't feel up to the challenge of doing the repairs yourself. There are still people out there that do repairs to Aibos. I'm not going to list any here in this video, because you may be watching this years down the line, and they may not be offering their services anymore. Well, there you go. I think that just about brings me to the end of this video, my little homage to 25 years of Sony Aibo. It's a shame it was discontinued in 2006 to make the company more profitable. It really does make you wonder just how far we'd be today with Aibo in 2024 if they'd have continued things. and also with the Sony Curo as well, if they continue with that. That was quite an amazing little achievement there, wasn't it? Quite a few other companies have made similar robots, but there was something about the Sony one, wasn't there? I've never actually seen one in operation. I must try and look for a video about that. A couple of things I didn't mention actually during the video was 2 accessories. One was the speed board for these two, the ERS-1000 and 220 that Sony did back in the day. They're quite hard to get hold of on the second-hand market, and when you do see them, they're very expensive, sort of £200 or £300 or plus, from what I've seen anyway. There is actually somebody else out there making one today in 2024, which should hope to be ready in the new year. I'm not sure what kind of software it will need, because I should imagine the Aibo will need something to understand how to use it. And I'm sure Sony probably did something like that for the original speedboard. I'm not to investigate that any further at this point. And the other accessory was the ERS-220 body kit you could get for your 210 core. So you didn't have to buy the whole dog again, you could just upgrade the actual exterior. And with its modular design, obviously that made that quite easy and accessible. Though apparently there weren't many of these things made. There is another YouTuber out there that talks about this. And if I think about it, I'll try and add a link in the description so you can have a look at that. Well, I hope you've enjoyed watching that with me. I may have missed out a few other things as well, so I apologise about that if I have. Please let me know in the comments so other people can obviously see that, what I've missed out, if anything. It's been a very enjoyable video to make actually. It's taken me about 3 months. I've done it all on my own, so there's quite a lot to do. But it's been very enjoyable. I'll do a video on these two in the future when I get a battery, and we'll see if they work, see if they've got any problems. Well, like I said, I hope you enjoyed watching that with me. I guess that just leaves me to say, as always, thanks for watching. And until the next video, I'll be seeing you. And if you did enjoy watching this video, you may want to take a look at some of my other videos on similar themes. I'm always buying something on eBay, some more piece of technology, and trying to repair it. And as always, don't forget to like, subscribe and share. Thanks for watching.